All right, so we're gonna have to speed this up a little bit and try to get to the end of the point, because this next part really we're just gonna kind of just speed this up and get to current times, because again that's what everybody's really worried about, is what they've got going on now, right? So we're gonna explore a little bit of more of how all the little shit, this whole backstory that I'm fucking talking about, it take forever to get through. How does that apply to where we're at now as a species, men and women, as a society, right? So, like I said, I'm getting through all of this shit. I'm going hard. If y'all don't know how hard I'm going right now, like I said, I'm going hard. It's like, I would be sidetracked so much going through all of this shit in the detail that it needs to go through. So again, with this monogamy thing, we're pretty much summed up. Like I said, you're kind of seeing the way it's coming from like a man and a woman's perspective, if you will. Now, to bring that to today, how can how I can transition that in today to where we're at today? Is I'll say it this way. It doesn't matter whether this is a natural evolution, right? To where that story that I'm saying, where, we came from apes and then there's this period of and that's where monogamy came from. And now we somehow have this brilliant soul that's in that, human animal, and we're just much more complex. And monogamy is becoming a problem, with how we're, in our modern society, okay? We're having an issue with relationships with the opposite sex, sexual interaction, if you will, for better words. Whether it's that, or again, this other way is a clusterfuck that I'm not gonna get into, but whether it's a de-evolution of humanity of where we're at now. I'm not going to get into the theories of Atlantis, ancient Atlantis, and things like that, but people would be, thinking of, humans being at a lot more higher, state than they're at now, right? More technologically advanced, more, emotionally and intellectually advanced. So, just for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to pick sides or, anything like that. But this other way, again, it could be, it still all falls within these last several thousands of years, okay, of our missing history of Homo sapiens sapien, right? 150,000 years, right? So, that would all take place regardless from, humans being in a high place and then de-evolving. But, bottom line is, monogamy in our current society is still an issue, okay? So whether, the time equals trust thing, and, human animal just got more complex because it got a soul, or that soul actually just evolved into the society, long story short, we have an issue with monogamy. Now, that's what I really want to start getting into, okay, is, what the fuck is monogamy? Why is monogamy, all of that shit, okay? But the real focus, again, because again, I'm all about the source issue, is it's called opposite sex sexual interaction, okay? So that's really what we're looking at, because monogamy, again, is just one form of opposite sex sexual interaction. And I have to get into this a little bit deeper, okay? Now, when you say, what do you mean it's just one form? Isn't that what the whole thing is about? Isn't it about finding somebody and living happily ever and having a kid? And isn't that what it's about? No, it's not what it's about. That's just one strategy humans have. And again, if you see where I'm coming from, you can see why it's so ingrained in you, like on a gut level instinct, because of where our biological mechanism, the evolution, it just came from, okay? So if we try to detach ourselves and actually see, okay, and even look at nature and see all the different forms. I mean, you'll see fish where there's one male and 6 swimming around them, or you got lions, and prides. There is a couple animals that do the monogamy thing, tons of just lay seed and, keep moving, or, they are still in herds and communities or whatever. There's no real investment from the male. There's my point here is there's all these fucking strategies, okay? Now, in our modern day, again, how I'm bringing off all that stuff we talked about to what we've got going on now, is we think it's normal. What's been normalized is a monogamous relationship. Now, I've already alluded to, okay, the construct of this reality is kind of forcing that, and women are kind of forcing that, okay? And nobody really knows why, right? Now, the point here is I have to talk about other structures, okay? And then once I talk about other structures, I'll tell you about the benefits that monogamy actually brings, okay? And I'll show you what the type of person who should really be exploring monogamy should be, okay? So, again, nobody said that that's the way it's supposed to be. You look in nature, it's majority just not the way it is, okay? I keep saying like how it's a higher level of complexity because it's 2 people having to work with each other, and these are just higher concepts, and you can see we're higher beings than animals. Like there's this thing, right? This structure that you're seeing. So what are some other structures that are opposite sex sexual interaction, okay? So we can have many other structures of opposite sex sexual interaction. If I try to break down some real quick, again, I'll say it like this. Everybody knows one man, one woman. And again, I'm for sure not being politically correct in accommodating for same-sex sexual interactions or men-bisexual sexual interactions. No, we're just not accommodating that because this does not drive the point home of the philosophy. That'll be for later shit. So we've got, let's say, one man, one woman. Everybody's familiar with that. We call that a monogamous relationship. We've got, you could have one man, you could have 2 women. We call that polygamy, right? And these are literally forms that just transpire. These are just strategies that go on. You could have 3 women in one man, and 5 women in one man. You could have, now, what I'm about to start talking about is something that we're all kind of unfamiliar with. Because what you'll find is this is what the near future would look once we, as people, heal ourselves and become a little bit more healthy. You'll find that what we can do is we can go beyond a monogamy or a one man and a multiple female situation. We can go to, say, 2 males and 2 women. We could have a group of 5 men and 15 women, okay? I'm not going to get too deep into spirituality and soul groups and things like that, but we can definitely look from a perspective, okay? We can definitely look from a perspective and see that maybe in the higher realms, maybe there's entities of masculine and feminine energies that decide to group together. Maybe, like I said, there's groups of 20, maybe there's groups of 100, and they're all sexually involved with each other. Maybe in same ways, maybe in different ways. Maybe getting some benefit from some and getting benefits from others. Now that's to go way out in groups of opposite sex sexual interaction in numbers, okay? We won't go too much into detail in theory on how future generations look, okay? Or how maybe other advanced cultures or civilizations actually function. But I will say that a certain level of this is at play, where it goes well beyond one man and two women polygamy type of situation, okay? Or even a Mormon, you know, with 10 wives and one man. It goes well beyond this. Now, this is pretty much a can of worms, but we've got to we've got to talk about it. Now, the reason why you don't hear me talk much, or you didn't hear me mention about like two women and one guy, okay? Or, you know, you didn't hear me say, 5 women and 15 guys. You know, this huge number ratio different from men to women. So I'm gonna briefly gloss over this. I don't want to get into it because again, we have to look at the double standard. Why is there a double standard? What does it mean? Excuse me. So, because there's really not a double standard, even though there is. And the reason why there's not a double standard is because there's ultimately just fairness that prevails. But there is a double standard in the way that it physically looks. Like, this can't do that, or that can't do that, because then it's just not fair. Even though it's like, oh, well, this person has sex, then I can have sex. Well, yeah, in theory, but look at it closer. You'll see it's not fair. So the point here is really set up this whole thing of when I'm saying that there's different relationships that humans can have, and there are different strategies, okay? And there's gonna be different like pros and cons that come from both, okay? Or from different, okay? And there's also going to be a certain level of evolutionary level that the person has to be on for them to be able to function within certain structures, okay? So for example, like a person that hasn't conquered jealousy issues, or hasn't conquered, being confident in themselves, or, I want you to think about these higher human qualities that we have. And again, I really want to, more or less look at the negative qualities and overcoming those, right? So, anger and sadness and, blame and guilt and shame. The list can go on a little bit further. But the point here is, even I want to try to think of, some things in a monogamous relationship that we really have issues with. We really got to zoom in on that. So, like for, a man, if he's built to seek sex, and this is like one of these primary instincts that come from him recently over the evolution of the man, he has to be secure with that part of himself. And he has to be secure with that part of himself and still be okay with like having one woman. Like that is where the issue is that he's technically lying to himself because he doesn't even know this part about himself. So that's why they go out and cheat, men go out and cheat. Because they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm a relationship guy and I can be with one woman, but then these temptations come around and these desires start flooding because he does not really know who he is or in tune with all his parts. And he goes and just does some shit and it's pretty shady, right? So lying, honesty, right? Humans are really bad with this one, right? Even to themselves, honesty. So you have a quality of, if you can't be honest, right? If you're a person, you can't be honest about, like, say, everything, just for example, how well is a monogamous relationship really going to work, right? You're going to disappoint somebody because they found out you're lying. That's going to deteriorate the relationship and the quality that it is, because the person can never trust you the same, this, that, and the other. But the point here is where I'm really scratching at, okay? Because again, this is still directed towards the modern woman and where she's thinking as far as monogamy, because they all have relationship goals, hashtag relationship goals. So the point is you'll realize, a person will realize that humans just are not evolved on the level to have a monogamous relationship. I alluded to earlier that a monogamous relationship, out of all the forms that you can have, is the hardest one out of all of them, okay? And reason being, okay, I wanna, I'll interject things like this, selfishness, right? Remember when I was talking about the root of all evil is selfishness? Like, we can't really address all of this without really alluding to selfishness, which, like I said, I think I wasn't going to define too much, but I did mention how, we touched on it enough. But the point here is, having one person to yourself is pretty fucking selfish, okay? Now, it's not that it's not an experience that one can't have, but the concept of when you're in a society of people and you choose to divvy off with each other, the concept at its core essence is selfish versus coming together. Because ultimately, one of the things that we'll start alluding to with monogamy is this thing called intimacy, okay? The highest form of intimacy comes in a monogamous relationship, okay? However, you'll realize, like I said, even if you kind of think of like some advanced civilizations, when you aren't, say, selfish with just one person, you're with multiple people, okay? Now all of a sudden, again, you gotta interject the other concept of there's strength in numbers, right? A village of people can build a village quicker than two people, right? It just is what it is, right? So you're always working with the mechanics of the universe, of whatever you're trying to create in the universe, right? So that's why I'm alluding to choice. You'll realize that free will just chooses to create certain things in life, and then there's a best case strategy for it, almost like this philosophy. I'm choosing to try to create a positive future for humanity and world peace and humans, interacting, and opposite sex sexual interaction being a huge play in that harmonious, element. So if I'm, choosing to do that, that's what I'm choosing to create. Now, there's a strategy within all of these elements of life in this universe for the most effective way for that to work. That's what I feel like I'm doing. That's what I've kind of relayed as far as, explaining how we can change the world through women, and then they can change men and things like that. It's a strategy, right? It's all something we're trying to create. So when you just try to think of like an advanced civilization that is, intimate as possible, it's not going to be as high as two people, But what you can create in a multitude of people, okay, you can create more, bottom line. Now that's your trade-off, okay? Your level of intimacy. So let's just get into that, okay? So to touch on a couple of the things that aren't going to work, and why, even though I'm mentioning them now as strategies, but they won't work, right? As far as where current humans are at, they potentially can work in the future, okay? So when we talk about these multiple groups, like, 5 men and 10 women, or we talk about this 100 group, civilization, all sexually intimate with each other, or we talk about even that the reason why that's not going to work, okay, these multiple groups, to just touch on that, is you can't trust another motherfucker. Good luck even trusting your opposite sex sexual interaction, okay, with the sexual energy. I do want to interject how sacred sexual energy is. I couldn't harp on this enough. I haven't I couldn't begin to talk about all the things we need to talk about in the dating philosophy and to make things healthy and harmonious for life. So, one of the things, we really do have to see is the health that we all have sexually, okay? Like, I'm not gonna get into negative energy that you can stick your fucking dick into and literally fuck the physical part of it. It's just negative energy, right? So my point here is sexual energy is sacred. And so I'll give you, like, the best example that I can give you is like the example for the man, and why that I honestly don't know if even in the future when we evolve, if it would be healthy to have like 2 women and 1 guy, or excuse me, take that back, like more guys than women, right? So like, like 3 guys and 1 girl, just think, you need to think about it, and it's kind of funny, it's just like, like that's hoish, like women are like, I just think at a gut instinct level, most women, it's not even appealing. Like, there may be an appealing aspect of dating multiple guys and, okay, this guy gives me good dick, this guy pays the rent, this guy, like, getting, like, I can see, how women, move in multiple fashion that way, how they're getting benefit. But if I were to just say, okay, all 3 guys in the same house, tag teaming, one's in the pussy, one's in the ass, one's in the mouth, like, it's like, that's not really going to be, I don't think, too, like, gut level appealing to most women, okay? So, like, why is that, right? And so this is why, when I was alluding to, okay, you have a monogamous relationship, 1 man, 1 woman, and then you can have, it's okay to have like 1 man, 2 women, 1 man, several women, whatever, or, these groups that I was, talking about, but I was saying how it's, kind of weird to, sure, in the future, potentially, yes, we could evolve to where it could be 3 men and 1 woman, and that be like in a healthy sense. I just really do feel like that forces the boundaries of masculine and feminine at its pure nature. That goes beyond transcendence of the human and being evolved, like getting rid of jealousy, blame, and shame, and honesty. Like, you can develop yourself as that type of a person, but still it might not work with like 3 men and 1 woman because of the nature of feminine and masculine energy. And we have to honor the nature of feminine and masculine energy to a degree. So, just having that many, like men like hovering over you like horn dogs, it's just, there's this level of, that's what I have an issue with, bottom line. we've been going too long already. Without having to really go into this, like I said, you're just gonna instinctually, even kind of just when I'm talking without me giving too much detail, you should kind of see how that one, with the 3 men and like 1 woman, the multiple men and women, the ratio there, not really being, that being a very low probability because of the nature of masculine and feminine energy, to not get into too much detail. And then just really the group situation, the reason why that is an issue, it goes to kind of almost one of the reasons why you couldn't have, it'd be hard to have healthy, in the modern day, even if you could be a woman and have 3 guys. Like, the reason why a guy wouldn't want to share his woman is because, and even in the group situations, that's technically what's happening. You don't have, one man that's claiming all the women. You're a man sharing women with other men at that point. That's really what I'm trying to interject, is at the point that the structure has one man sharing women with another man, this is where the game changes. This is why the game changes. And again, I had to do soul searching. I've had to have a lot of experiences. I've had to really put this together. And again, talking to women is going to be very hard because I think they'll be able to relate to me, but I just don't think they'll be able to relate to me because I'm a man. Because I just see it so common. As much as a woman wants to be selfish and have a man all to herself, there's this thing that she can share a man, okay? There's this thing, ultimately, to be honest with you, that a woman damn near doesn't even want a man if he's not wanted by other women, okay? A man could give a shit if you're wanted by other men. If you're attractive, that's what he wants. He don't give a shit if you're, desired by other men. Of course you're desired by other men. What the fuck? You're attractive. So long story short, because again, these would be long talks to talk about what really women are attracted to and things like that. But they definitely are attracted to a man that has women that desire him, okay? So, which is going to be a point into, some. And you guys are going to have to bear with me on this combinations. Hopefully you can keep up. Because this part, again, this is some shit where we should be taking notes on the board, because it's more practical, but I'm just like freestyling. Remember, I'm just freestyling off the top of my dome, so if you can intellectually visualize, hey, you can, get what I'm saying. So, again, with the man and another man, there's this thing of like, and even in our modern day, there's this thing of like, dude, I don't know who you've been fucking. You know what I mean? And I think women have hints of that when they fuck a man that's fucking another woman, like, who you fucking? But I just can't explain at a gut level the difference. A woman has an issue with it at the level of her monogamy, okay? Like, it's not good thoughts. Like, if this is gonna be mine and he's all mine, like, I don't wanna be thinking about him with other women. Like, it's like that. But to see a guy with other women, that shit's hot for women, right? He's desired. To see, when a man sees a woman with a whole bunch of guys, that's disgusting to him. Gut level disgusting. So again, it goes beyond just a man getting mad that other men are around his women if he's in a monogamy thing because it breaks the rules of monogamy. But it goes to a gut level of like, he doesn't want her. She's taken. Like, there's something, like, yes, men compete and try to take women, other men's girls. But as a rule of thumb, on a gut level, we're not attracted to, there's something that says move on and go get something that is available, right? It's just a better utilization of time for a man. So I'm speaking about this because it ultimately is just alluding to how we just can't trust another man. And I'm definitely speaking for myself, but again, I do think this shit is universal. But again, it's going to be hard for me to talk, about, oh, this is what another guy would be experiencing for this level of depth. I'm just going to have to go through myself. So again, for myself, I'm not going to want to see another, again, I don't know where dude's dick been. I don't know if this dude's clean. I don't know what kind of sex he's having, how he's kind of having sex. There's this gut level of territorialness as a man with the masculine. It's a different type of territorialness than women have. Like I said, I'm trying to be sensitive to the double standard here because women are so ingrained in our modern society. Why is there a double standard I can do what a man can do? But I'm trying to show why men and women shouldn't be really trying to compare each other to each other. There's too much of a difference, too much of a power difference, too much of a way the nature has a structure to be trying to compare each other to each other. So to kind of sum up all these different fucking interactions, okay? Again, I'm just kind of showing you how, again, the multiple men and one woman's out, and then I'm kind of showing you how humanity's just not ready for the group shit yet. We're not at a health enough level for men and women to get into these groups and feel comfortable enough about opening up to that many people because they're confident in how those people are interacting, right? Living by principles of trust, living by principles of loyalty, and just levels that we couldn't imagine right now. We can imagine, but we function too fucked up, for better words, to ever even think about functioning in groups like this, to where we would have a totality of health in our opposite sex sexual interaction in a huge group. That's why I said, look for that shit in the future, okay? But let's get to what is practical for today, okay? And again, I'm gonna have to allude to why monogamy is not practical for today, okay? I'm showing you what is the most practical interactions for today. Why the fuck are we talking about this? Because again, everything's really disharmonious with how we run it. How we're running today is, again, very situational sexual, interactions, just sexual exchanges, one night stands, johns and hookers, whatever, all the way up again to, relationships and people trying to have families and shit like that. So why is all this important? Okay? And I'll be honest, I have so much more detail to add about, there's just no way I can talk about all the modern shit that will just hit home for you. It's just gonna be yep, we're doing that, that's how it's happened, and then it'll just fit into this whole structure that we're kind of going over. So, again, if we're looking at all these different situations that we could have, let's see what are some differences in there, okay? We're gonna have to zoom in on what the differences are. So, and again, I think I've kind of touched on enough of why, multiple dudes and to the ratio of, one woman or whatever. It just isn't really, practical for now, okay? So, again, one of the things you heard me allude to is intimacy. You heard me mention intimacy, right? So, if we're looking at intimacy, these are some of the trade-offs that we have. It's actually the biggest trade-off, okay, that we have when we have multiple partners in the group, okay? So that's one of the, like, I would on a board show, kind of a difference of, okay, intimacy level goes down, more people. The less people, the higher intimacy. And that's why in a monogamous relationship with just one man and one woman, you're always going to have the highest level of intimacy. And intimacy is a broad word, but I think a lot of us kind of can, imagine what intimacy is. But I think I should put more context just to make sure we're all on the same page. Intimacy is the depth that you're connecting with somebody. Okay, it's the depth that you're connecting with somebody. I think that would be the best definition that I want to give intimacy. Now, again, the more people you have, the less intimacy you are. So the less depth of connection that you have with that person. Now, you can see why in an advanced culture, if people have their, are more evolved humans, for better words, you can have higher levels of intimacy in higher levels of groups because there's more cooperation because of the higher evolution in the humans, right? So there's going to be just more harmonious behavior, normal, everyday behavior that all humans have, beyond relationships. That's just going to be so harmonious that it's going to allow, you don't have time of distraction of disharmonious with people. So ultimately, you're connecting with them deeper, right? So, in an advanced civilization, there might be able, just as a hypothetical, there might be able to be, two women and two guys that are more intimate with the whole group than one man and one woman is today because of the level of disharmoniousness. Okay, so that, again, we've got to pick apart all of the pros and cons, and that's why we're doing this, because you'll start to see where a monogamous relationship works in the strategy of the universe. Okay, because again, we got to just say, okay, there's individual souls, there's a masculine, there's a feminine. How does that interact? These are some of the core things. Now, strategies, there's always numbers of, souls or entities, right? So, groups, you get like, these are fundamental things. Like one is one, like more is a group, right? These are universal concepts. So that means these are universal strategies. These are universal concepts that apply, not to just humans. That's why you see these concepts I'm talking about in nature, but they extend way beyond just Earth. So, again, breaking apart some of these different structures that men and women can have opposite sex sexual interaction, one of the things I'm wanting to compare is the level of intimacy. So, again, we're throwing future interactions out just because humans are not evolved there. We're throwing, multiple men out with, one woman out just because it just isn't congruent with nature of masculine and feminine, and we're definitely not evolved as humans to have that. So what we're really left with, okay, and this is, for the example of the structures that we're giving, is we're left with monogamous relationships, one man, one woman, and we're left with one man and multiple women, okay? That's left for this example. We haven't said what's acceptable in our current society yet. Now, I want to go back to the missing link real quick, right? The missing history, okay? And again, I want to say this is either, a barbaric human that evolves, or this was ancient Atlantis where we were advanced and, something happened and we de-evolved, okay? Regardless where we're at right now, we're at a level of, I don't want to say de-evolution, even though I do, but again, we have issues with jealousy, we have issues with our sexual desires and self-control, impulse control. we have, as humans, we have, you know, we say we want to do something, we can't do it. You know, where we're at right now is we're still children in our spiritual evolution as a human, bottom line, right? Like those are some words that you could look at. We're still spiritual children, and we need to become adults. And again, an adult would know, you know, how to discipline, how to not lie, how to be honest, how to, you know, go about life in a real, you know, it's hard to term, but, you know, that's why I'm just terming it as an evolved person, because you've just mastered a lot of the difficulties that consciousness has, for better words, right? In being a human. So the reason why this is important is because this is why monogamy can't be, okay? This is why monogamy cannot be a strategy that we employ as humans right now, because we're not evolved enough to maintain, manage, and thrive in those relationships. I am being the bearer of bad news, but yes, it's ingrained instinctually in you as a woman to have a monogamous relationship, but you have to be a bigger person and say, that's not what I want though, because that's not going to bring me harmoniousness. What will, right? It's not even the next best thing. It's the best thing. It's like I see where I'm at right now. What's the best thing for me? I'm not looking for the next best thing. I know what the next best thing is. I want to know what the best thing for me is. Even if I'm a woman, and I guarantee you, again, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, it's not monogamy, okay? And I'm alluding to the reason why. We are not evolved enough. Like, again, when I start to say the divorce rate is plus or minus 60%, something's wrong here. People are shooting for these monogamous relationships, but they're not working out. Why? People are not evolved. I don't want to go into the selfishness level. I don't want to go into, you know, the neediness people have for other people, the desperation, all of these levels of their like negative qualities in the human that humans haven't overcome, and we think that we can be harmonious in a monogamous relationship. So we're about to really get in. We're about to go in on, you know, some of the monogamous shit, right? On why it just, you know, what's going on in today's structure of monogamy and how it doesn't stand a chance. Okay, so if we look at monogamy in the sense of men and women, okay, we've already talked about, you know, women having sexual selection. We've already talked about, you know, men show up to the, you know, to the party, hey, let me into that pussy, right? So what this is about is if you have a woman, okay, or excuse me, if, you know, we have all of the things, just, you know, people being dishonest, people getting their heart broke, people cheating, you know, we have all of these things that just say we're not ready for a monogamous relationship. We're just not evolved enough in our personal life to get together with another person and have an opposite sex sexual interaction in a healthy way, okay? And that's for men and women, okay? Both sides. Now, what are some of the unhealthy shit, okay? And this is where I'm about to break. I'm about to hit y'all with something ain't nobody told you. And you'll never be able to hide it from me or anybody that, you know, understands this. And it should make you, as a woman, kind of really look at yourself like, what the fuck am I doing, right? So, women, okay, I think that again, we're really honing in on monogamy and why it can or can't be, or how in modern today's society, how it's being done really unhealthy, right? But here are some of the reasons. So if we're looking at let's look at the mating process. We really haven't touched on the mating process for the man and the woman, as a human. And the special differences, we looked at some other animals and tried to make some comparisons. I don't really want to get too deep into the mating process, where it came, how, where we're at with it now. But there's a few things that I want to mention about it, okay? So let's talk about it. So some key elements, and I always say the very, very start can be kind of tricky, because a man can notice a woman or a woman can notice a man first. But for this example, I want to show how basically a man notices a woman first, okay? And the reason why I want to start there is because beauty is what attracts a man, okay? There can be some things that attract a woman to a man first, and then she might put herself in the position to be noticed from him, but it's still going to start with him noticing her beauty. Because a woman could want a man, okay, and if he's not really looking her way, then it might be hard for him to look and the sexual communication process start, okay, if he's not looking her way. So again, every life is situational. All of that stuff can be adjusted from the beginning, again, from the man noticing the woman and the woman noticing the man, and how this whole process starts. But again, I'm going to give a simple example of a pretty general, typical scenario. We'll just go to the club, right? And, man walks in and he notices the woman from afar, okay? Well, what goes through his body, okay, once he sees that attraction, okay, is this sexual urge. Okay, there's a sexual urge that runs through a man's body when he sees an attractive woman and he wants her. It's this women love it. Like it's the feeling of being desired, okay? And this would be some of the differences in men and women, right? And women being on the feeling realm, and men being on the mental or the visual, men being more visual creatures, or humans are visual, but men might be more visual and women might be more, emotional. But, we're all visual, we're all emotional, we're all logical, but it's just different levels. So we go to the club, like I said, guy spots the chick, he sees it, there's this thing that goes through his body, like, damn, I want to fuck her. And then all of a sudden something, she gets some sense that somebody's looking at her, and she looks up, and for whatever reason, there's a real strong, connection for her. So they make this eye contact, okay? So we'll just say it's the eye contact. She throws him I'm interested. You can come over here and fuck me right now. The fuck me eyes or something. And, he's looking is that meat? Is that dinner? Let me go get that, type shit. So he goes over and talks to the chick, and once he just to give this, like I said, I'm just running through a quick little example. It's not the end all be all, but we've got to look at the context of this. So he goes, talks to her, she's feeling him or whatever, he's feeling her, and they go back to the house and they fuck, okay? And that's that, okay? That's that of the story, okay? The story's not really important. We're just gonna pull out some elements, okay? So again, the human sexual process. That's what we're kind of, the mating process of humans, okay? Of how it goes. We're zooming on humans now. So what this first aspect that I call is the man desiring the woman, okay? Again, she's inflowing, she's feminine, he's outflowing, he's masculine, she's magnetic, he's electric, however you want to look at it. The woman is made to attract, she's inflowing. So you can see that's kind of where it starts, okay? So at that point, again, this is opposite sex, sexual interaction, so we have to interject sexual energy, where sexual energy technically starts. Sure, she's a woman just standing there by herself and exuding sexual energy, you know, say if a woman was in heat or, you know, whatever, you know, trying to attract her, you can just visualize a woman with sexual energy, right? But she's just technically there by herself. That's just by, like, she has that energy without any man. Okay? A man has to see that for sexual energy to go through his body. Okay? Now, this is where the first interaction between the man and the woman happens. Okay? In opposite sex sexual interaction is when he sees her. What's going through his head and his body, he might even get a little chub, you know, once he sees her, you know, like, there's this sexual energy that goes through his body. He sends that to her, okay? This is where women are about to, like I said, this is what I was alluding to. They're about to hate me for this one. But women are more hoes than men without having sex. Like, women have this issue with men cheating and being hoes. They only want sex and blah, 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 blah. But here's where we have to see the difference in between the man and the woman, okay? This is major. And again, we're starting off from this first process. You know, so why am I saying women are more hoes than men, okay? What we're really looking at is just the equal opposite, okay? But again, I'm going through this example to show you the process of how humans, men and women, interact during the sexual process and what things mean what along the way, okay? So why are women just as hoes as men, if not more? I'll explain. So again, it's very valid when women are like, oh, men just want sex, oh, that's just all they think about is sex, blah, blah, blah. It's very valid, okay? Now, how I would term it is, it's way better to look at sexual energy as a whole and not the actual acts that humans are doing, like actual sex or whatever, okay? You have to look at sexual energy as a whole in this process, okay? And this is very, very important, so really fucking listen, because this will help a person get over the double standard about men and women and really see this picture so much clearer. So, a man is sexually approved when he gets sex. A woman is sexually approved as long as she's showing enough of herself and a man can see that shit. Because again, that's first step, is man sexually approving of the woman. Okay? So he has to sexually approve of the woman before, you know, and again, it's funny because again, we say women have she has the ultimate sexual choice, and she does. It's called the ultimate sexual choice. But it's not the way humans' sexual process work as far as, you know, she's over here, you know, choosing and, you know, no, there's a whole process that goes on. And like I said, I kind of talked about it in the club left out a few details in the sexual process, but we'll get to it. So, what is the opposite of a man in his sexual energy and getting sex? Okay, here's another way of saying it. This is where a double standard comes from. A woman says, this man had sex, so by me with another woman, so by me having sex with another man, that's equal. See, this is where humans try to make actions equal and not the sexual energy of what's going on at play equal, okay? Him having sex with another woman is not equal to her having sex with another man in multiple ways, which we're getting into. So, again, men don't walk out the house and, sure, a man can be attractive and be well put together and people look, but they're not looking at him, okay? No man or woman. Even when women want a man, she's not looking at him like how a man looks at a woman when he's attracted to her. There's this sexual energy that goes through his body that starts this process. I've seen it I've done it a million times. I've done some amazing things with this to where I knew a chick didn't even spot me, and I put this, I gave her the, I let the shit flow through my body. Like there's this alpha male energy that we just fuck the shit out, and you just feel it, right? When you just see it, it's just like instantaneous. And I've had women position themselves to make themselves available for me to holler, and I just know that if I didn't send off that initial energy first, she wouldn't have even had something to work with, okay? And I know I'm talking about shit that can't be seen, visually to, to explain what I'm saying. But all women will know about this unspoken communication and flow of energy that, we don't need to be explaining it, right? And that's another reason why I can actually talk to women is there's a huge language of women of this emotional frequency that I speak. They probably there's no way that you can't pick up that I'm on it, even though you still see I'm on a male frequency. And this will allude to why you can't do this philosophy with any other male than me. Because there's going to be a level of things that the woman requires or desires for her to be happy in whatever structure that I am talking about that will flourish in. There's still going to be a part that the male has to play for her to be happy. It's still a part of a male that he has to bring to the table, certain actions, certain behaviors that she has to be attracted to, that makes her happy, that gives her good feelings. And this is, like I said, it's one thing to know the philosophy. Then it's another to be able to be the man that the woman wants, to be able to bring her joy and happiness, okay? So, anyhow, I didn't figure this part was this difficult, but it actually is this difficult to speak out loud to a fresh person with no frame of reference to any of this shit. It's just what's got to be said. It's wild. So, again, the sexual process starts when the man looks at the woman, okay? Now, that's what that is right there, okay? Is sexual energy. She gives him, all right, that's sexual approval energy, okay? He doesn't get sexually approved until he gets sex. I don't care how attractive the woman is or the way she's looking at it, she's not giving him the energy that he gives her. It's just the difference between masculine and feminine. What she gives him, the energy she gives him, is when he's deep in that pussy. That's the sexual approval energy that he gets and he feels when he's in that pussy. A woman gets sexual approval from energy from men as soon as she walks out the house. So now we're about to really start busting the bubbles of women and how they're abusing their power and how, monogamy, they want their cake and eat it too and shit like that. So this is one thing that before I get here, in the sexual community, the sexual mating process of humans, about the only other thing I did want to mention is because there's this level of love that people think that they're in, okay? Now, you know, when guy meets girl, and, you know, these are the elements that I forgot to mention in the example, so we'll throw them in now. So again, he looked at her in the bar or whatever, they gave the eye, and he went over and started talking to her. So some of the parts that were missing before they went and fucked was the feeling that she was getting when they were talking. He was, you know, talking about taking vacations and, you know, how a future could be, and, you know, they were bonding on all their similarities, and, you know, they both had this feeling of connection, but it's deeper than you have with other people than opposite sex. The reason why we get into this shit called puppy love, okay? I call it puppy love because it's really just the natural mating process. People want to take this process more personal than universal, like it really is. But when we meet somebody, and, you know, like, then we have sex, right? To throw in another part is like when you cuddle at the end. You know, she likes to be cuddled. And like, this is like bonding shit, right? So, bonding is a part of, you know, humans' mating process, right? From beginning to end, you know, into this monogamy thing, you know. To this so when there's one man and one woman and they're committed to each other, there's just certain signs and a dance, just like the tail. I guess this would be like the tail feather for the peacock and the brightness. This is the richness for humans, you know, like that display, and for him to go up and him to show off in front of the other guys, and, you know, all that. Us humans have a little bit different one. It's this soft, sappy, lovey shit. And women are way more in tune with it, and guys that are good with women are in tune with it. Guys that are not good with women are not too in tune with this. They have elements of this, but, you know, you gotta experience this with a woman to really know. So again, it's that process, like I said, it's like at the beginning. And, you know, that's why, like, there's that theory of, you know, like some women are serial daters because it feels good to fall in love. You know, being in a relationship sucks, but that beginning part of falling in love, quote unquote, is just beautiful. And it's really a human mating process. I can't get into too much detail with this, but I do want to just touch that most times when people think they're in love, okay, and, you know, they say, you know, oh, it's not like it was at the beginning. You know, people get bored in their relationships. It's because it's never was meant to. Like, there was these fireworks and these sparks and all these things that were taking place when the right two people come together. And they don't have to be soulmates, you know, for this process to be experienced, okay? They do have to have certain right attitudes towards the situation and certain compatibilities, but, you know, for modern day humans. But ultimately, it's a process that, you know, like, that's why chicks would be like, oh, I'm in love to another girl. And that other girl knows what the fuck she means. Like, oh, okay, bitch. Like, you say that to a guy, you know, it's just like he really likes a girl and he wants to be with her forever or whatever. But it's still real heady and intellectually. You know, he's still experiencing emotions, but again, I just wanted to interject a little bit more to the story because, again, I want to show how love isn't necessarily what, you know, a lot of people think it is, okay? It's sometimes it is blatantly this thing called the human mating process. It is how we bond for monogamy. And this is the reason why women like to go about like dating. That's why dating in a certain sense. That's why women will be like, they like chivalry and shit. Sure, the concept of chivalry intellectually is nice, but it actually feels good. It's like this bonding that you're doing. It's like that you give this time equals trust thing, and emotions start to build in things, right? And it's like this building up sexual tension process that we can put that in there. It's really, really hard to capture, especially when I've been going this long. But ultimately, I want to interject that from a biological standpoint, wherever monogamy came from, we are at a point now where some of the experience that we have when we go about these monogamous interactions with the opposite sex sexual interaction is just the human mating process. It's nothing special, like when he got her something from Valentine's Day and he made her feel soft and sweet, and all of these things. All of these things are really, the way it makes the person feel is like gestures to stay. This person's gonna stay around and male parental investment. Again, I don't want to get into it too deep, but I do want to point out that again, a lot of the things that we think are, true love, or the experiences that we're getting off of in these, relationships, male or female, it's just a human mating process that's universal. So it's nothing to get too excited about. That's why people can be in love multiple times, or some people have never been in love. Some people never really figure out this process, and just certain perspectives that would allow them to say they were in love. But where I'm going with all of this is I'm building up a little bit more story to the difference in men and women, okay, and where we're at currently in our modern day, okay, and how we're interacting and how these interactions aren't good and they're not healthy, right? And they're strategies that are not, we shouldn't be employing these strategies. We should be looking at other strategies. So, but the big one, again, one of the arguments is, I was going to say, the Muslim culture, okay? One of the things I think that they got right, okay? And it's funny because, I'm not here, to rag on any religion. I'll let anybody know I'm not a religious person. I highly believe in God, but, I'm not going to get into, where I call issues with various religions. But I want to state that, they've got the whole burqa thing, how they got the women covered up and shit like that. I'm not going to lie, I don't agree with that level of control over a woman, okay? Kind of how it permeates through society. I would imagine, I'm kind of stereotyping, I would imagine, some men allow their women to be more free, but I think that right now in 2023, anybody up to date with cultures and things like this in the Middle East, they're just a little different in some places with how, how dominant the male is over the woman. So I just want to state right now, I'm not with, okay? I'm definitely with free will, I'm definitely with humans, not being controlled by another opposite sex. So a point here is, the element that I want to take from is the burqa. It's crazy because how I saw this. Because again, we go back to the example of the bar, of where it starts. The man spots the beauty, and then he sends this sexual energy to the woman, okay, from what he sees. Now, if a woman is in a burqa, okay, maybe just from neck down, no, but I want to be extreme with this example, so head to toe, okay, covered up. So you can't see with the face or the eyes, there's nothing for you, a man, to visually see, to be attracted to, okay? This is important, like this, what I'm talking about. And again, especially if we're talking about monogamous relationships that women are really forcing the issue for. However, we're trying to have them in these very unharmonious ways, and we're trying to force it. And again, some of the things I'm saying is just point out why we shouldn't be trying to be doing this dumb shit, okay? So, women are sneaky again with this one, okay? This is where they have their cake and they eat it too, and it's why I'm saying they're just as much hoes as men without actually having sex, okay? I'm really circling in on this whole thing. I really hope I can bring it all together. But this is one of the parts that I just have to, show, because I'm saying, like, humans aren't evolved enough to be in these monogamous relationships, but I really want to point some things out that are just going to be kind of hard to dispute. So, if the man again is sexually approved when he actually gets sex, okay, and the woman is sexually approved as soon as the man visually sees her and he gives that sexual energy from his body to her, just, it goes through the air, right? Again, let's look at that sexual process of, what's happening, right? So man sees woman, ends up seeing, filling the guy out or whatever, seeing, and, then gives him sex. In this example. Now, I want to, women to think about how the modern woman, especially today, I mean, it's gotten well worse over the last decade or so. Like, we could go back, a couple of decades and, there was, women had way more of a social pressure to cover it up and not show off their sexuality. Like I said, a decade ago to today, it's just at its all-time high with the level of women flaunting their sexuality off. Now let's talk about it. So, and again, we've already mentioned that a woman's beauty is literally designed to attract the men from biological, when we talked about this stuff earlier. So I always say, women, don't get too caught up on yourself and shit like that. Like, your looks are literally not for you. Like, I love when I hear women, oh, I'm just wearing all this for me, I look good for myself and blah, blah, blah. That's cool and all, I like to look good for myself and, stuff too, but, ultimately, like I said, it's funny because, the way I look, the way a man looks good for himself is about what a woman can look good for herself. But she's looking good for herself way more than looking good for herself. Trust me, it's to attract a man. That's why the fuck she's been given the beauty. It's not for herself. Again, this is selfish shit that I be talking about. How have a woman, she's just born and she's walking, I'm me, and this pussy's mine and I choose who I give it to or whatever. But have you really came outside of yourself and say, who is this dick? Was this dick given to me? Was I born with this dick for myself? No, I was born to give this dick to a woman. Same thing for a woman. A woman is born to give her beauty to a man. Let's stop, let's always look at things like that and not be in selfish mind states, right? So that's first of all. But anyhow, not to get off on that side tangent, but the woman's beauty, again, attracts the male. So this is the part that's super overlooked. Again, 2023, women flaunting their sexuality off is at an all-time high. Now, again, the more, what that shows a man is, what that signals to a man when he sees beauty is, okay, that's available and I can fuck that, right? Or that's available to be fucked. Let me go try to fuck that. Okay, that's what this really means. And definitely in our modern day, okay, I see beauty. She's showing it. That means she's available. I need to go over there and try to fuck that. Okay? That's what that sign means. okay? Because you see beauty. And that's why I'm interjecting the burqa thing with the Muslims, because if you don't see beauty because it's covered up, it's not available, right? You don't need to go over there and see if, you know, you can get it some dick. You don't even, you just see another person, it's just another person. There's nothing, it's just another person over there, right? Versus when she's all dressed up, showing her curves, it literally, a man can't just look at that, like, oh, I don't see all of that beauty, all those curves. Like, no, there's some shit going on. Like, that's why I said men try to act, and it's so funny, women try to act, and men try to act like shit ain't going on, you know, but we really just all playing games. And again, women are winning this game. So, let's just look at that. What's really going on there is, why are women getting their cake and eating it too in our modern day relationships? Well, one, they got the relationship from a man who would, if it was his choice, he wouldn't have one. And two, they're still out getting all their sexual attention, dressed up sexy while they're in a relationship. So, you know, why am I talking about this? Because this is some of the reasons why we're not happy, why men aren't happy, and why women aren't happy, and all of this shit. Like, these are just some of the aspects that are playing out. And men, like I said, it's just so fucking wild how men overlook the shit that I'm talking about and just think the shit's normal. And of course, women have the power, and you know, it's like, well, shit, if you're gonna give me the power, I guess I'm not gonna make any complaints about having it and using it. So, trust me, I really am trying to circle around and bring this philosophy home and make this point. You know, so just bear with me, all right? That's all I can say, just bear with me. Because we're all both there, I promise. So, we've just talked about enough elements to really bring some of the core issues out in our modern day monogamy relationships. So, we've mentioned that guys are programmed to like want to fuck and get into whatever and lay their seed in that would let them in, because women have to open their legs and actually let them in, right? And we've talked about how women are more scarce in, you know, letting fewer in, right? Fewer men are many, women are fewer, right? You know, fewer eggs, for reproduction, you know, have to be more selective and, you know, who they let in, or they have hunchbacks, you know, running around out here. So my point here is, women don't even desire to have multiple partners at one time. We can see how you're biologically built with the variables that we've been talking about, of how we got to the evolution of a woman and the monogamy and all this process. We see how she shouldn't even want to desire more than one male. It doesn't even logically make sense, right? Like, she's trying to have a relationship with one man with male parental investment, have kids, raise them, and that's that, right? So there's nothing in that really, you know, like I said, when women, you know, like I said, just when you have this complex soul in this animalistic body, right? And then, you know, the animalistic body have the genetic programming from all the, favorable, procreation things. And then the woman, like, you know, in the modern day, we have an ill society, but she has these things floating through her. You know, the reason why we don't see women solely on this, you know, monogamous relationship and really playing it to key is, you know, like I said, we're all just kind of confused and doing the best we can with who we are and our desires and how things in life. But again, the thing that's cool, because again, I'm speaking in generalities, and yes, we see all these other situations to where, you know, men not acting like that and women not acting like, you know, these examples I'm giving. But we can ultimately say that these examples I'm giving is the general core gist of what's happening, right? And I hope that's what people are taking, because again, we can work in the little shit along the way if we understand the big picture of what's happening. So again, when we say women don't even desire multiple partners, men do desire multiple partners just by nature, okay? So this is the element that I want to look at, and then the element of, again, how the sexual process starts with men giving sexual approval to women from the visual look, to men getting sexual approval when she actually gives them the pussy, okay? So I think, and these are enough variables on top of the burqa, right, with the woman covering up, okay? So with these variables here, I'm about to turn this shit into some crazy shit real quick. So women don't want men to cheat, okay? So what they don't want is him to stick his dick in another woman, which he definitely desires, which we're not gonna get into, right? But she definitely doesn't desire to just have multiple guys, sticking dicks in her. She might be, have a side dude or whatever, we're not gonna get into all that. It's just, as a gist, she's not interested in having, multiple partners at one time, like that. So, again, cheating isn't, yes, cheating is just as common for women as it is men, but not in the same sense. Like, they're cheating for different reasons. Like, he's cheating just because he wants some new pussy, right? She's cheating for different reasons. She's not happy at home, this, that, and the other. Some of these, she got a beta and there's another alpha out here, and this was turning her on, or, she's got her ape thing going on where she's stuck into fame, the leader of the pack, it'd be various things why women veer off. But the point here is they're so unhappy with men, they say, being disloyal and cheating, okay? Well, one, I don't want to try to give him an excuse, but he's just so detached with his natural nature, and she doesn't even understand it because she wants him to be like her, programmed to just want a relationship, which he's not. You get a lot of fucked up behavior. But ultimately, men seek sex, okay? Now, this is the new interjection where I say, are women really seeking relationships on the equal playing field to what men are seeking for sex? Last time I checked, relationships and sex are two different things. A relationship is a relationship. Sex is sex. Okay? So, can we really compare what the two are looking for? We try to put this general thing like men are looking for sex and women are looking for relationships. They can't really be compared. Yes, in the opposite sex sexual interaction, what's his primary motive? Sex. What's her primary motive in the opposite sex sexual interaction? A relationship. Okay? Now, these are primary motives, not sex. Let's look at sex for a woman. We've already showed how monogamy has evolved from, women forcing the issue, for to have longer lifespans and, kids being able to, have better chance of procreating and, that whole little thing. So we know sex is involved. Like, women want sex. Women desire sex too, okay? Now, you can see it's in a different manner when they have to have a kid and have family and they have these biological instincts that way, right? And you can see how it's different for a man, just kind of wanting to just lay his seed in whatever that's attractive, okay? Now, the sexual process that I keep saying, the human mating process, if you will, I'm calling it, different things that go on, because it's just important to look at it because we can see it from our perspective as a human and not look at other people in nature, other animals in nature. So when like I said, when the man looks at the woman and throws his sexual energy off, okay, we've got to circle around that is what is equal to his sexual approval, okay? And I'll even term it in different ways like this. Like, she's getting little micro hits all throughout her day of sexual energy, okay? He's walking around not getting those sexual hits. He's the one, because he's male, he gives those sexual hits at the beginning in the sexual mating process for humans. He gives those to the woman first, okay? So, and again, all this stuff is in general, right? Life is always situational, but this is a great guideline. So, if I'm saying, I'm being like busting this out, right? Like, sorry women, you're caught, ha ha ha. Like, what you want sexually, as much as men actually want his dick in the pussy and have sex, is to be wanted sexually. That's why women dress like this. That's why they're on the internet posting those pictures. Like, I actually said to myself, like, I remember when this shit got really, started to, women really, like the ones that were really at the beginning, like, plus or minus 2010, chicks were real, like, I was like, because I had been hollering or whatever online, and it's like, okay, enough of them didn't respond back or whatever. And it's just like, but she's still advertising herself like she's single, like she's trying to attract a man. I couldn't understand it, right? Like, from a man's logical brain, you don't try to attract something unless you're trying to attract something. So it was like, how could these single women, like, wouldn't you just cover, like, if you were like, fuck men, right? Wouldn't you just cover up and be like, don't look at me, I'm done with men, and that's that. Like, if you weren't interested in men. And then if you were taken, this is the bigger one, right? Why we'll talk more about the burqa, is if you were taken, why would you want to be desired by other men sexually if you're happy with what you have at home? FYI, are women really happy at home? Now, this is still going to allude back to we're not evolved enough as humans to be in these monogamous, situations. Men aren't and women aren't, okay? So again, I'm trying to show the difference in what is actually equal in sexual energy, okay? Because of how it actually happens. It's a guy sees a woman, bam, he gives her sexual energy. She, just to keep things short, if you will, she approves or doesn't approve, right? So if she doesn't approve, she doesn't let him in sexually. If she does approve, she lets him in sexually, okay? But what I do want to try to say is there's not like a woman that lets a man in sexually that a man doesn't look at first and desire sexually. Like, this is where, women, it's hard to, but that's why I say men are so easy and attraction level is really so low for a woman to be fuckable, because, it doesn't really take much for a woman to get a man to look at her sexually. Like I said, you got to be really undesirable on so many levels for a man not to look at a woman some way sexually. So, again, and there would be level of that sexual approval. The more she's his preference or whatever, he sees, bam, it just goes through his body. That's what I want, right? But my point here is this: we have to get, like I said, I know I'm talking around certain things, but I just want to be clear because I know this can be complex with all of the interactions that's taking place. This is literally, again, the sexual process, mating process of how this works. We have to see the divvy up of sexual energy and where it goes and how it goes. So, and again, to be equal, how much he wants to fuck her, okay? That's just the best way. And this is why what's equal, what's opposite. Some things can be compared, some things can't. Some things can be compared, but they look different. This is one of them. A man's like, I want to fuck. Let me get in and fuck that pussy, right? And a woman is like, I want him to come in, I want him to fuck me, I want him to fuck this pussy, right? Whether she does or whether she actually does fuck him, okay? This is what she wants from basically all men, okay? Because again, we gotta say, look at the peacock, right? All the men running up to her and trying to show off, right? And she's got her options of who she wants to pick, right? So it's the same thing for a woman. A woman wants to get herself done up, get all beauty, which that's what attracts men, is their attractiveness, and just know that she can get that sexual energy from men, okay, once she starts to get all attractive, if you will. And then now she's got options. You know, should I let this man in? I mean, here's the bigger thing. And this is why I say you really don't want to abuse your power if you're a woman. We all know we can only let, a woman can let one in at a time if she's going to be on some monogamous shit, one man in at a time. So, why are we trying to attract a man and we let 1,000 men try and we don't pick any of them? Right? This is like dangling steak for a man, right? In front, a dog, dangling a steak in front of a dog, like, here, don't eat this steak. And again, when we, then we'll realize why we have further societal problems where men do force themselves upon women. And we have to both take self-responsibility. Sure, there's a certain responsibility for a man to not overcome and do that to a woman. But there's a certain level of responsibility that a woman shouldn't even be teasing a man in the first place. So we don't have this society of fucked up people not getting their needs met, okay? So, like I said, man, this shit, I would really love to just, like I said, these should have been hella videos. But like I said, I just want to deliver the philosophy and be done with it. So then I can basically perfect this over time, lay other videos down, edit whatever I need to do. But anybody that wants the philosophy, if you can watch through these many hours, you've got the full shits, right? And you've got enough, even though it's not everything, you've got enough context clues to see the big picture of what the fuck I'm trying to say. So, again, if we say equal thing with a man wanting sex is a woman wanting to be sexually desired. Now, again, what would be equal is for when he actually gets pussy. And again, when she actually fucks a man, it is not equal as him actually fucking a woman, okay? So here's the thing. Again, if we go into those odd things and we say, okay, there's one woman and then they have all these men that come up and then she just gets to choose one. So a man is chosen rarely in the sense of this big game, right? Of women, okay, and then having men flock and then she gets to choose, right? She can be attractive, she, attracts them with her beauty, and then they come up and then she gets to choose. So it's it's like with a guy, he's really rarely sexually approved of, right? Because it's when he actually gets sex from a woman. So versus compared to like how many women he would prefer to be able to have sex with, right? Like it's very rare what he gets compared to what he would want. Now a woman, on the other hand, like I said, what she actually gets compared to what or what she wants compared to what she gets, right? She gets a flock of guys, but she only really wants one, right? So when we're looking in this context, a woman is not, again, sexually approved by a man when the man actually gives her sex. A woman, again, is not sexually approved when the man gives her sex. That's just like a default. It's just a default. We've all been waiting for her to let us in anyway, right? We've got to look at it that way. All this men has been waiting for us to let it. Of course we're going to fuck you. It's not sexual approval when you fuck me. It's sexual approval, when you fuck her. It's sexual approval when you fuck him, okay? Because that's what he wanted, okay? Now, I just want to say, like, that's a big hit. That's like when you take a sledgehammer and bam. So when he gets pussy, that's the amount of sexual energy he gets. Is bam, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of sexual energy, right? Big sledgehammer. Now, what her sexual approval is again, I'm giving the best example when a woman, gets all done up and tries to attract his, and all these dudes are hollering at her and trying to get her number and trying to take her on dates or whatever. All of that is her sexual approval. That whole pregame, it's like the woman gets the pre-sexual energy and the man gets the post-sexual energy. That's just kind of the way the mating process of humans work, okay? So what she's getting all day is these little hits. You know, imagine like little bee stings of sexual energy. She's getting these little bee stings of sexual energy, you know, as soon as she wakes up and looks in her DMs and looks in, you know, like, you know, dudes was seeing a picture, and trust me, the message, whatever words were in that message, she feels his desire, not to mention the psychic energy of just not even needing to see energy, but being able to feel people desire you and want you. You know, women know what I'm talking about here, even if, you know, they don't consciously understand that, you know, like they, no, you know, because you actually know. That's what, like, you psychically are in his head. But my point here is, I just want to draw a clear distinction of the men's role and women's role in the mating process, how it works, who goes first, who starts, who gets the first sexual energy, who gets the second energy, and the level of, you know, like I said, once he's sexually approved, that's a major sexual, you know, energy he gets finally. But hers, you know, she adds up, like, you know, just as an example, like throughout the day, after 100 dudes have just looked at her and approved of her sexually all through the day, she's getting that build up and that charge up, okay? So, like, that would be equal to when, like, let's just say the guy was in a relationship and then he fucked another girl. Just know that guy who does cheat and fucks another girl, he cannot get any and every girl he wants. Trust me. So once he gets sexually approved, it is like a sledgehammer. It's a major, you know, sexual energy that he gets. And this is one of the reasons why women have issue with it too, you know, besides the loyalty thing, the, you know, going against the monogamous commitment of the relationship. Besides that part, you know, they feel like, oh, he just got sexually approved, right? But they're not looking at the man's, and again, the man's just so dumb because women have a real, you know, twist on the story of why this is okay. But they just have they get to walk around and flaunt it. Like, that's normal. Like, it's my body, I can show it. Like, these are clothes, I can wear what I want. You know, if it's tight and it's revealing, who cares? You know, like, we live in this whole culture of, you know, like, motherfuckers is really slick. They're not really knowing what's really going on behind the scenes, okay? But let's just make this shit clear as fuck right now. Monogamy relationship with a man. So woman's expectation from a man is to not cheat, right? Which, you know, just have such a reputation for cheating, right? Well, at the end of the day, that request, for him to honor that request, that shows, again, some guys will honor it. Some guys will honor it, or put it like this, all guys are honoring it in disloyalty to their actual man self, okay? And the reason why I say that is, again, a man wants to fuck everything that's attractive. And I'm just going to go out on a limb and say in 2023, there's no man that has mastered on an evolutionary level the mechanism that wants to fuck all things that are attractive and then be satisfied only fucking one woman for the rest of his life. Okay? So that means she's the only one who sexually approves of him. And what we're trying to say is now he's happy about that. He's fulfilled and he's ecstatic that he's with one woman for the rest of his life. There's no man right now in that healthy mind state. Even if you think there is, you think there's some relationships that, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Trust me, it's all an act, it's all a lie, it's all a delusion. Again, if you gave that same man that you thought was happy the choice to have sex with 7 different women, beautiful, best women he'd ever seen for the rest of his life, he's taking that option. Okay? If he was really that happy and wanted that monogamous relationship and to not have sex with any other women, that's what he would do. Right? We wouldn't have all these issues that we do have. So, again, if that's the expectation from a woman out of the man, which is reasonable, to not be sexually approved of by other women, which is AKA actually getting the sex from other women, okay? Like, I promise you, a man flirting and all this shit, women already know is harmless. The only thing she's worried about is him sticking a dick in another woman, period. Right? Because she knows that's when he's sexually approved. Let's flip it around. Man, dudes hate when they girl going out by themselves or whatever and they all dressed up. Like, women, don't give a fuck, he looking good, he can step out the house. I mean, he gets sex, like, but there's something on the level inside a man, and it ain't even a jealousy thing. It's a thing of a real feeling in our modern society when this girl goes out looking good with her other girls and he's not with her. He already knows other dudes is looking and giving sexual energy. He doesn't know it in this mind state that I'm talking about, but he just knows intuitively there's something wrong here. He's taking an L. She's having her cake and eating it too, somehow, okay? So the reason why I'm mentioning this is because ultimately, if the monogamous relationship is happy and the woman's fulfilled and the man's fulfilled, that means, again, the expectations from the man for him not to cheat with other, the expectations from the woman on the man for him to not cheat, he should do that happily and be happy about how he's going about it, right? Versus, a woman, she should be happy also. So again, if we've talked about sexual approval and a man, getting it when he gets sex, and then a woman getting it when a man views her sexually, right? And he's got to see her to actually view her sexually, okay? So if a woman, you're not going to love to hear this because you can't eat your cake and eat it too, even though you want this monogamous relationship, a woman cannot, or if she's satisfied, if a woman's satisfied in her monogamous relationship, she would not want sexual approval from other men. And it's not the same of having sex with other men like it is for a man. Once he has sex for other women, that's approval. It's from the beginning. It's the way the mating process works, which humans are just overlooking, and this power imbalance is really being played by women, and men are taking it on the chin on this one. But again, I've got to expose this, because if somebody's gonna be forcing the talk of a monogamous relationship, you gotta walk the walk too, right? If you're gonna talk the talk, you gotta walk the walk. Why are you out here dressed like this, getting all this sexual attention from all these men if you're satisfied at home? A woman should only want to be sexually satisfied from her man. So that means only her man. This is why I bring the burqa up and why they nailed this shit. And it's weird. It took a while for me to just put that in there. That's really an element that should be involved in monogamous relationships. That, again, if a woman being sexually approved of from the beginning is the start of the sexual mating process for humans, then we've got to cut that off from the beginning. Right? There's the burqa. She cannot be seen. When she's not seen by other males, when she's in a monogamous relationship, satisfied, supposed to be fulfilled with this one guy, she does not want sexual energy from other men. That just contaminates, taints the whole interaction. Whereas for the man to actually taint and the whole interaction between his monogamous relationship, he got to actually fuck some. He got to go out of his way to really do it, which is kind of easy. Say if a woman just sat on his lap, right? To just, okay, But my point here is a woman, they're trying to really overplay this or downplay this of their visual, of being shown, of getting sexual energy because of showing their body off, right? And that getting that sexual energy is at the same level of a man being a hoe. Like how thirsty, let's get it like that. How thirsty guys are for sex, right? We all women know how thirsty guys are for sex. Women are that thirsty for that sexual attention from men, to get from men. And it's so fucking crazy because, they'll take it from of course they would prefer the sexual attention from the man that they really want, but they'll take it from, and this is, like I said, when I say guys aren't really pickable with fuckable, right? With the, it's like to be a woman that's fuckable is not that hard. Well, it's not that hard I think women are even less picky with the sexual attention that they will receive from men. Because again, they're just trying to show up and they'll have a pool of men competing to let them in. They don't care. They don't care if, he's bum and then this guy's rich. It's just to have all of the men wanting them sexually, that's their goal. That's their hoe. Okay? And again, that's why we'll get into other talks about when women actually become hoes, and not even in the sense of cash money hoes, but like that are promiscuous. You'll hear me interject. I haven't interjected this word yet, but it's called promiscuous. Women are on levels of promiscuity. And long story short is, you have, like I said, not cash money hoes, but women who end up having sex with a lot of men, right? And we've already stated by nature, from the primary motive, women don't want that, right? They want least amount of partners, okay? So again, we'll have to talk later about, it's really not a good sign when women have a lot of sexual partners. Again, I'm not here to pass too much judgment. I'm not here to say somebody can't heal or things like that. But just off basic philosophy here and how it's all congruent and how it all matches up in the big picture of everything, we have some health issues that, for a woman, because again, it's expected for a man to have sex with a lot of women. That's the way he's built. She's actually built to only have a few. So when she has a lot, this is what you'll hear. Like, I'll make a comparison again, how I'm making a comparison to sexual energy, if you will, even though it's different form. It's the same, like it's different form for man and woman here, but it's a different test. Like, guys are built to want to have a lot of sex. So if they're not able to, be like good with women, if you will, that's an issue, right? There's an issue. And this is where you'll find of tons of the unattractive qualities that men are exhibiting to women that just on a gut level turn them off. And this is why I'm saying me, trying to employ the philosophy, but also employ, when I say, be a man that, by nature like a lot of sex, but then you actually say, quote unquote, are good with women. Those are the things that you've picked up that attract women. It's like certain things just attract women, okay? And it's, alpha, for better words, the alpha qualities, things, over being beta. But again, if we make the comparison to the woman, right, she's built to not want to have a lot of sex. So the woman that does have a lot of sex, they've got issues, just like the man who, is built to want to have a lot of sex and then isn't able to. So we've got to look at the overall health of those two people. But, again, just for the context of the example of sexual energy, if she really, and again, we're about to show you how we're just going to throw out this whole monogamy thing, even being possible, because again, in our current society in 2023, because of the lack of evolution. And again, this is one of the things that we would have to overcome for us to have a true, healthy, monogamous relationship. We would, as men, have to be like, okay, yeah, I have this desire, but I don't even give a fuck. Like, I'm good with being sexually approved what I got at the house. And it would be the same thing for women is, I'm good with what I got at the house. I know, I would desire all this sexual energy from men looking at me. But you know what? I'm happy with just the man at the house looking at me. So I'm going to throw this burqa on him, right? So we are not there, okay? Even if, and this is why I always even say, if a woman threw like, oh, Jared, I'll give you a fucking monogamous relationship and I'll throw on a burqa, right? After hearing what the fuck I just said. Because it makes sense, right? We all know it makes sense. The point is I wouldn't want her to do it because I don't want her to force it just to have something that she thinks she wants. This monogamous relationship thinks it's going to lead to have happiness. And it's like, no. When you actually become evolved to not need that sexual energy from men and be sexually satisfied from men, that's when you'll just throw it on natural. Like, nobody even has to mention it. Like, won't even want other men to sexually approve of you visually. You're satisfied, right? But again, we're not. So I think we beat that up enough. But, one of the, points of why I'm trying to really throw out, monogamy here, of why it's not really a functional interaction for who we are right now. Again, I just want to interject the level of evolution. Okay, and monogamy, of course, if we just, kind of go back from it's just one strategy of opposite sex sexual interaction that we can explore as humans. And we have to detach from thinking that is the be all end all way that we were made to be. We came from something, we're going somewhere else. We're just where we're at right now. And, again, I'm kind of interjecting where, monogamy came from just one of the more recent last steps that we evolved from. So let's actually circle back around with that real quick, because that kind of will start to put wholeness to the philosophy, right? So again, it doesn't matter if we de-evolved or we, evolved as, dumber animals and now we're just smarter now and we're trying to take this thing that, desires that, by nature, and kind of force them into a modern society and make them work, right? Again, remember, I'm going in until I get all of this shit out. I don't give a fuck, all right? You know what I mean? If you've been along this long with the journey, you'll see how everything is connecting and how it's telling this big story, right? We're almost at the end to where what I'm looking for is the most favorable thing that any of us could want right now in modern day life. And it's just being realistic with ourselves and where we're at, right? And becoming the most happy with all the variables that are at play. So I want to be done for the most part, get off this monogamy thing so I can move on. But I do want to mention maybe one last thing about it, okay? So if we're looking at, I don't, like I said, I don't really want to get too deep with the conspiracy theory shit, because again, it would be more natural just to kind of go with the natural evolution of where monogamy came from when we were dumb animals and things like that. But for shits and giggles and to push the envelope, I want to look at the de-evolution route, okay? And I want to look at monogamy actually being implemented during this de-evolution of the human, okay? So, if thousands and thousands of years ago, the human was way more evolved than we are now, how did we get here, right? So like I said, let's go back to this kind of more recent several thousand years of history that is missing, that we have no records of, right? And say that, for shits and giggles, we'll say, and I'll be honest with you, this is actually the last piece of information. Like, I've known most of what I'm telling you guys for years. Now, this last part was actually some new information, but I really want to put it in because I really want to have people force the envelope and think outside of the box. So again, let's just kind of throw it out there. One's if it was some genetic engineering or whatever, like I said, in this whole de-evolution process to where, monogamy was, say we took the human animal and, turned it, took an ape and then genetically engineered it into what we are today. And so we obviously have different instincts and things like that than apes, but we'll just say these instincts were programmed, right? And we'll say again, we know that there's an instinct for women to want to have these monogamous relationships, even for men, but way deeper for women. But we'll say that this was put in us, okay, for our evolution, okay? And we'll say that monogamy, because we already kind of looked at one of the things for monogamy to groups of people in opposite sex sexual interaction is the level of intimacy. Okay, so I want to interject and say that potentially humans were evolved, genetically or whatever, quickly to be monogamous creatures, so they could learn how to grow. And again, remember, this is an advanced civilization, more advanced than we are now, okay? So they have the capability of overcoming the instinct of the sex, or the men just wanting sex, and the women having all these desires to have men have sexual, attention given to them. We'll just say that humans were beyond, that and could master those, right? But at the end of the day, we'll just say that we all needed a closer relationship to God, okay? The source creator. And these monogamous relationships, when men and women experience to try to have healthy ones, because, the society was conducive and, all of that. And again, this strategy, you can employ whatever strategy in the universe to, create certain results, right? And we'll just say, for whatever reason, results needed to be created for humanity and needed to be sped up. And intimacy was important because of what it taught us, okay? So we have these monogamous relationships to how it would bring us closer to source. Now, I know this one's out there, okay? Maybe for some people listening. Most people listening for sure. But I'm interjecting this to show another possibility besides how monogamy got into the human beyond just this natural evolution. And to show how it doesn't matter that regardless, it's still for a positivity creation of higher level humans, right? Higher evolved level humans, right? But obviously the de-evolution one says, okay, well, we were able to have monogamous relationships because we were at an evolved point at one point in time to where we could, master, overcome our, self-downfalls as a human. But now we're here, okay? Versus you had a dumb animal and, you still have these instincts and now we're here. Either or, we're at a place where humans are not evolved enough to have a monogamous relationship and hold it in a healthy manner. That's what this is all about. It's having positive interactions, right? That's first and foremost. I said that at the very beginning. It's about having positive interactions. If you're out here in all these structures having all these negative interactions, what the fuck is the point? Is it a point to have negative interactions for the sake of saying I have a monogamous relationship? Absolutely not. That does not bring our humanity anywhere in growth. Like, we just got to see this one, okay? We got to see this one. So again, I'm really done talking about the monogamy. I did want to kind of just throw that extra food for thought out there. But again, that's why I said it doesn't matter, because it still shows the fundamental concept that we have some growing to do if we're going to pick a structure of monogamy, okay? Because of where we're at right now, we're unevolved as a species, and this is worldwide. Again, I hate to get into statistics, and again, I'm just estimating, but again, if you've got a give or take 60% divorce rate, how many people are actually just staying in the relationship because they committed and they're not happy, right? I'm going to even throw an extra 30% on there, right? If not 35%. So that gets us to 90%. All right, so now you've got 5 to 10% of people that are in happy relationships. And I put them in quotation because I think at the best that we could get in monogamous relationship is two people that basically have good communication skills in overall, treat another human being good overall. These things that, qualities as good people, just most people lack, okay? So here's the thing, is when those two people get together, they can have a more harmonious interaction. So their friendship level is increased in those type of interactions where you have people that are evolved to that level. The reason why I say we're not evolved to the monogamy, even those still fight things inside of themselves that ultimately make the monogamous interaction unhealthy, right? They're not actually healthy. Like if a guy's like looking at all these women and is like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, I think I'm in a happy relationship at home, but fuck, I don't feel right. I really want to go fuck these women. If that shit crosses his mind, I don't give a fuck how harmonious his little friendship, happy marriage is. It's not at its full potential. And if we're talking 5 to 10% that we get these minimal results from that we call happy and healthy relationships, what the fuck is the rest of the 95% of people? Are we just dumb people? No. The shit's just not right. The shit's just not structured right, okay? So, again, just driving the point home on why, again, monogamy is basically out the window because, us trying to do that in 2023. Because, like I said, if I'm really just cutting to the point, is we're not ready for that, okay? We're ready for multiple interactions and less intimacy because we're gonna let down our intimate partner and ourselves because we haven't mastered our desires or whatever. So that's why I say that the monogamous relationship's at the top because it's the hardest to have. It's an option, just like any of the opposite sex interactions that I mentioned earlier. But the monogamy is the hardest because of the development that a person actually has to have. So if we say, okay, just by natural feminine and masculine energy, what goes best, and okay, we're not evolved, then what's the best option? That you're gonna have these multiple women in one man scenario, okay? So just to kind of side note and to show to the future of how this philosophy works, because again, me and you women, we have to get some men up to speed so a lot of y'all women can just have that one man. Because right now, it's basically me against, I don't even know, like what, it's like 8 billion women in the world. Let's just cut that down to 4. Let's just say cut, 2 more billion down because of age, too young or too old. So I'm just gonna say, I got 2 billion women that need me right now. And there's no other man that they can do it with. That's just, that's insane. Okay, that's that's too much of a responsibility, right? So again, we've got to get the men up to speed in these situations, because why would one man even deserve several women? What goes on in this? And so what we have, so the evolution of the way that works is you're gonna have several groups of women, one man. And there's going to be enough men that are just dickless, holding their dicks in their hands like, I want a woman, right? Well, again, with the philosophy and how it changes the world, we change men, is enough men, again, through seeing what women are giving their sex up to, like to that one man, being a group of women and the one, what is that one man doing, right? What are the qualities he's exhibiting? What is, what's his communication style? What's his evolution? You're about to find the one most important thing here in just 1 second. But long story short, those men will start to catch on. And then, women can, we can, if we want to maneuver into more monogamous relationships, we can. Because now there's enough men, let's just say we evolve, all the men. Well, now there's one man for one woman now that are actually at the level that they can actually have a relationship, right? Or she be happy with him. So, like, we've got to develop men even to the level where women are happy with them, even if they were in a monogamous relationship, because it's way bigger than just giving yourself, committed to a person. That's like why women cheat, because they're not happy at home. Like, the guy's boring, or, all this random shit, I don't want to get into right now. So, yes, that's kind of the structure of how it looks, okay, until we actually have the options. And again, you'll find once we get out of this phase of where there's basically a man and several women, okay, and we'll talk more about how that looks, but once we get out of that phase, we'll actually be in the phase of options of, hey, well, I want to try something more, with more intimacy, and I've conquered, several of my downfalls of a human. I can do a monogamous relationship, or we can go be in these groups now, several men and several women, because now we've grown so much. That's an option that we want to do, or we want to stay in these multiple women and one men scenarios, just because again a human at that point, they're going to just see pros and cons to everything. They're going to see, okay, well, if I'm in this group, I lack this. If I'm in this monogamous relationship, I lack this. I lack the strength of several when I'm just in this one-on-one. So there's levels to this shit, okay? Now, where I'm going with this, one man and several women thing, okay? And that's just what I really want to bring home. And I think the best way to bring that home, and that brings this whole thing home, and this is why I'm recommending, okay, a multiple woman and one man scenario. And unfortunately, at this point, I cannot recommend that with anybody else but myself. Sad to say. Please, ladies, do not listen to this philosophy and try to think you can go turn a man into what I'm talking about right now and just be in some polygamous situation.